Hello, and welcome to episode 129 of Flix and a Six. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Costanzo. With me, forever and always, the man, the myth, the Eggman, and or the Walrus, Alessandro Bielsi. Say hello, Al.
That's such a perfect intro. Because I am the Walrus. Cuckoo, ka-choo.
Perfect. On this week's episode, we continue to catch up on what we're watching. We discuss Nolan's plan and other patented ramblings, all before diving into our flick of the week across the universe. But first, Al, what are we drinking?
We are drinking a Revelry Brewing Lefty Lucy IPA. This is 12 fluid ounces. Unfortunately, it's not a pint. It's 7% alcohol by volume. It's from Charleston, South Carolina. Brewed in the Left Coast tradition, this IPA is dry and bitter. Lefty Lucy is front-end loaded with those old-school hop varieties that helped define the style. Hang loose with this bitter, quenching glass of sunshine.
Ooh, I like that. Quenching glass of sunshine.
I mean, it does look rather bright and pale, so it does remind me a little bit of sunshine. It's been nice having some sun the last few days, despite the fact that my day starts, in earnest.
In the dark?
Thankfully I finally been starting in the light, and even finishing in the light too now.
Wow.
As opposed to the first couple of weeks when I started this job in February, where I was starting my day. I was clocking in with no sun up, and I was clocking out with barely the sun up. Like, it was firmly behind the mountains. There was a littlest bit of rays of sunshine over the mountains as it was going down.
I had a year like that in the city, and it was miserable.
Yeah, it's and those days, because those first 2 weeks, I was spending them the vast majority of it indoors. Now, a lot of what I do get in and out of a bunch of different locations, so nice. I at least get to drive around in the sun and stuff like that. But now it's nice out. It's nice to be out in it, even if it's only for 5 minutes at a time. But I get those 5-minute snippets of it, periodically throughout the day. Which brings us back to this sunny beer. You want to try it?
I do, but before we try it, I've got questions.
What does it smell like? Because it doesn't smell how I expected.
It smells delicious.
It smells good. It just wasn't how I expected it.
If you put your nose in the glass and you take a big old sniff, Sour Patch Kids. That's what I got.
I wouldn't have said Sour Patch Kids, but it's definitely something fruity, and not in the citrusy way that typically IPAs are. It smells almost not sickly sweet, but kind of like candy, or an assortment of fruit salad, maybe.
Okay, and then a significant number of active bubbles.
Yeah, this is pretty dramatically carbonated.
It's dancing.
You want to know what's dramatically carbonated? The newest Al's Ale.
Your next nickname?
Yes. Dramatically carbonated. The newest Al's Ale, which I had the pleasure to try this weekend for the first time. And I don't know if it's exactly what I wanted. It's not far off. I think what may have happened is I didn't get a 100% full fermentation that I wanted to.
Okay.
It's a Belgian golden strong ale, which means it's got Belgian candy sugar in it, which means it's got a lot of sugar to ferment. Alcohol content should be up over 9%, and it came in about 8.5%. So I think there may be some unfermented sugar in there. So it tasted a little. It was funny because my first sip I was like, too sweet. And after I took another couple of sips, I didn't feel that way exactly anymore. So it may have just been that I was kind of fearing that was the case, because I knew that it didn't come in exactly where I wanted to. And sure. I know that I hit my mark in the brew process. I knew that I extracted the amount of sugar I was looking for. The gravity started where it was, but it didn't end where it was supposed to. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if I need to pitch a second batch of yeast because it didn't finish the fermentation. Because I did a secondary fermentation with this one because I knew it was going to need that jolt that you'll actually, after the first 2 or 3 days, really, especially if you start with a yeast starter the way I do, which starts with a fully activated yeast instead of something that's still waking up when you pitch it.
Sure.
So it means that instead of having 2 or 3 days of lag time before fermentation begins in earnest, it starts from day one. So the first 3 days is really the bulk of fermentation. For your average beer, something that's going to come out more like 5-6% alcohol, you might ferment 80% of the sugar in those first 3 days, even though you're going to let it go for 2 weeks. So this one made it about halfway by the time I flipped it for the secondary fermentation, which was a week. And so I was like, okay, that's not too bad. So if I let it go another week, it could be done, or it might be kind of close to done, and maybe I'll just let it go a couple more days. It barely did anything more in the second week, despite having the boost. And so when you transfer it, it actually starts to re-wake up some of the yeast because it gets moved around a little bit, but not too much, which can cause off flavors. So I did that, and it barely did. It maybe fermented 5 or 10% more from there. Which
I was going to ask, like, is there something you can do? But is it possible that you'll just eventually hit a wall?
Yeah, so that's what happens no matter what strain of yeast, and everyone has different levels, different tolerances for this sort of thing. Despite the fact that yeast is creating alcohol as its byproduct, the alcohol actually paradoxically kills yeast once it reaches certain thresholds.
Right.
I guess it shouldn't be that much of a surprise to us. It's the same as us. If you breathe in a
two soldiers on the battlefield, one with a baseball bat, one with a golf club.
No, think about yourself in a locked, closed room with no ventilation. You breathe in oxygen and you create carbon dioxide as a byproduct, and the carbon dioxide eventually will kill you.
Right.
Just the same with alcohol and yeast. So the higher the alcohol content gets, the more the yeast dies at a rate greater than it's reproducing itself. So the only way to make really strong beers in excess of 10%, something like a Dogfish had 120-minute IPA, they actually come out and tell you they pitch their yeast 2 or 3 times, I think. And that's what you have to do, because you may... If let's say you're looking for a 10% yield, your first batch might only get you to 8%, and then your second batch might only actually get you to 10% because it's so inefficient at that point. And with how much it's the rate at which it's dying in the higher alcohol content, the weaker yeast cells are dying in that high alcohol content. So you might only get another 2%. So
what's happening with that dead yeast?
It just falls out of solution to the bottom. That's what you try and leave behind.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
That's what you leave behind. So part of why I go to a secondary fermentation for a strong beer like that is you leave behind all those dead yeast cells, which if you let a beer sit on those for too long, it can create off flavors. Now, that's not going to happen over the life of a fermentation. It would happen if you, say, aged it in that for, it's not like something like a lager. If you aged it in that for months, it would create off flavor. If a couple of weeks, it's not going to. But by leaving it all behind, it creates a cleaner product. You don't have to worry about it being as cloudy when it comes out. And my beer actually did come out as clearly as I could hope for such a pale beer to come out without any sort of filtration. I leave my beers totally unfiltered. But that's part of what you've left behind bottled conditioned beers when you drink them out of the bottle. That stuff at the bottom, that sediment, a lot of it is expended yeast cells, but that's such a small amount in that it's not something you have to worry about affecting the flavor, really.
Sure. Cool. Well, that was fascinating. I say that not sarcastically.
I try and bring the beer knowledge when I can. I know I'm not an expert, but I do have a decent amount of knowledge from having spent a few years doing this now.
Well, let's cheers and take a swig of these Spree.
What does that sound?
Oh, I like that.
It's very tasty. Did you hear that sound, or is that a me only sound?
I think it might have been me, but the noise is canceled out. So I think a car just drove by, like, very slowly, but very loudly.
Okay, because it sounded a little bit like, do you remember in Signs when they listen to the baby monitor and they hear the sounds over it? That's what it sounded like, and I got a little freaked out.
That's terrifying.
Yes.
In that case, I didn't hear anything.
Yikes.
This is delicious.
Beer.
I like this a lot.
Yeah, this is tasty. I agree with their description about it being drier than a lot of ones. It is tasty, but when I associate super dry IPAs, often it means that I find, at least, that the malt hop balance is out of whack. So typically the lack of sweetnesses cause runaway bitterness on the palate, which feels like the way when you have an overly dry, like Chardonnay or something like that, where you feel the tannins drying out your tongue. And this isn't happening with this beer, which is nice.
No, it's like, it's got it all. It's like, it has just enough bitterness because I like that taste. You feel the dryness, but for some reason there's also like sweetness left over on your tongue. It's very tasty. I really like. I feel like sipping this beer is an experience.
This is good. It's a very subtle IPA. Which again almost sounds paradoxical because the way that the last 15 years of IPA production has gone, it's been a runaway train of either alcohol content, just raw, gross bitterness, or and like the rise of the NEIPA, like that juicy flavor. And this doesn't really have any of those things, nor does it have the ridiculous alcohol content. 7% is a solid sessionable amount, though. This is probably the most subtle IPA that actually tastes
qualifies
like an IPA and like is good. Because there's sometimes where there's like, oh, we have an IPA, it's really subtle. And it's like, I don't even know if I would call this.
Do you? Do you though?
This is unincorporated territories.
I'm going 2 thumbs on this one. I'm a fan.
So restrained as to be clearly a choice to not be those things. Like this isn't like, oh, we tried to make an IPA and it didn't come out great because like I did one of those. It's like, this is subtle and restrained because it's lacking. Whereas this feels like it's very calculated. Yeah,
no, it's very good because I feel like you taste every little note in there, and it's really nice. We're gonna have to go into a visual description of this can art though because we haven't done this in a while, and this one is awesome. So what we got here is the best way I could describe this is the Rugrats and Rocko's Modern Life on a road trip.
Yeah, I could see both of those things for sure.
In a beetle, in a blue beetle. That has slipped on a banana peel.
Is that why you chose it?
It is. And is going off-road into no left turn territory.
Yeah, they're pointing left.
And it also looks like it's a
cliff.
It kind of looks like Aruba. I don't know if you've ever been to Aruba, have you?
I have not.
But it's like crazy beautiful deserts and beaches. And one side of it is super rough water where the surfers practice, and that's exactly what this looks like.
Okay.
It's pretty sweet.
That kind of reminds me of parts of Hawaii when I went to Maui a couple of years ago, where there was this like beautiful tropical, and then literally 5 minutes away, not inland, directly up the coast, 5 minutes away, borderline desert. And the word for that town, that area was called Lahaina, and the word literally means dry place, I believe.
It translated roughly means holy shit, a desert.
Yeah, basically. it was I think I've mentioned it on the show before. I know I mentioned it to you. It was wild. We stayed at, I think it was Cottonopoly was the area, and it literally rained not just every day like in tropical places, nearly every minute. Like it would be beautiful and sunny and then immediately raining 5 minutes later, and then
that's so wild.
Like rain, like sunny, and then immediately raining again. Like the course of an hour, it would start and stop raining, but intermittently, not be cloudy, like sunny for like an hour. It would happen like 3 times, and it was like
when it rained, did it get cloudy or was it just a straight up sun shower?
Both. It depended on the moment that you were in, and it was beautiful and it was really nice. But like it was like you don't want to really go to like the beach when it's raining and like 75 degrees. And we were like, is it ever going to be nice? It's like, where we can spend like a day getting some sun. And they were like, just drive 10 minutes down the road. And we did. And it was perfect beach conditions.
What I heard there is you don't want to go to the beach unless it's nice. Is that? Wow. You did say that.
I did. Not in that order, but yes, I did.
There's 2 other notes on here. 3, actually. One, on the side where the barcode is a bugle, straight up.
Oh yeah,
don't know why. The font for Revelry is dope. I have been looking at a lot of fonts lately, and it's very difficult to pick a font. And I like this one. And then finally, if you look, I'm curious if your can has the same thing. If you look between Revelry and Brewing in that little blue area, it looks like there's a hidden message between the 2 words. Do you have that
above the barcode?
No. On the actual main part of the can art, on this blue Revelry Brewing banner.
Oh, you know
what is that?
I think because of the way the shadows are here, it just looks like it was like some sort of thing under the wrapping. And I'm trying to see, is it have words or is it?
It looks like words. I was wondering if it was a signature for the artwork that was then taped over with their brand banner.
There's definitely letters there, but I can't read them.
Does it say Rugrats and Rocco's Modern Life?
It does not.
Oh, okay.
The last four letters seem to be Dino. D-I-N-O.
Maybe. Yeah, it's hard to say. Anyway, this beer is delightful, and would drink again.
Yeah, I enjoyed this.
I really like this.
And let's just, at this point in the episode, if you're listening, you may not have noticed it yet, but as you go on, me and Anthony are trying to tighten, which is our favorite thing to talk about.
Tighten it up.
Tighten. The format of the show, so we'll hopefully be a little bit more concise in some of the things we're talking about. But I want to just take a moment to appreciate, we had one of the greatest beer segments we've ever had in an episode. And I know that was driven by me a lot, and so that feels like patting myself on the back. But you know what? I'm going to pat myself on the back. I think that was one of the better... Because sometimes we talk about...
Informative.
Yeah.
We learned things together as a group.
It was... I thought it was kind of fun. I didn't think it was a dry, boring, Ben Stein-esque lecture.
It didn't sound like just words to me, which, if I'm being honest, sometimes it does.
I know I get caught up in some of the technical mumbo-jumbo jargon crap, but...
God, you're just killing me with the nicknames that I can call it.
Well, that was pulled
Mumbo
right
Jumbo Jargon Crap.
That was pulled right from Christmas Vacation. That was Brian Doyle Murray saying to Clark, he goes, "I want you to give a talk on your non-nutritive cereal varnish at the layman terms. None of that technical mumbo jumbo jargon bullshit or something like that."
We have to have one minor throwback to last week's episode where we had a roughly 7-hour conversation on energy drinks where you had made the claim that I can only see Chris drinking energy drinks. And the next night for my birthday, you all came on a Zoom call and he was drinking a Red Bull. Which was just perfect. And I was laughing for a few minutes straight there. And that was all it was. And I was hoping that you saw it too.
Oh, I did.
It was perfect.
Did we not laugh through? I know it may have got caught up in the 30 people on that call, but I thought we had a moment where we laughed about that together.
I looked directly at you, and I just assumed that that's what you were laughing at as well.
Yeah.
Amazing. Let's move into some...
And unsurprisingly, I fell asleep during that call too, while
you did.
Physically being on the call.
We're going to move into some news and nuggets. First things first. Christopher Nolan is dead set on releasing Tenet on July 17th. Is this going to happen?
If I can fix my microphone and make it actually play again. I hope so, but also, release could be a pretty nebulous term.
Oh, sorry. Let me be clear. He plans on reopening movie theaters with this movie.
Okay, so I'm sure that assuming Florida hasn't died in virulent fire, that they will have movie theaters open, as will other states. And if you live in Florida, my prayers go out to you. And I live in New York, which is facing the worst of it, despite a lot of the state trying in earnest to be good about dealing with this pandemic. And I mean, from my perspective, I am out, as I was telling Anthony before, I've been out in public working 60 hours a week. So it's not lost on me the dangers of the situation. But we've had, 100,000 people-ish die? I don't know what the most updated version is. And by the time this episode airs, it'll be even higher, which is not great. And I don't mean to make light of this whole situation, but if you're going to open movie theaters and stadiums and arenas, which, as they were talking on the news today in Florida, they plan on doing this week. Forget about 2 months from now in July. So I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know how they're going to do it without killing another 100,000 people. Right. And listen, no one wants to be able to go to a movie theater more than you and I. We do a movie podcast. We love being in the movie theater to watch movies. It's a great experience.
It's my home away from home.
Yeah, I mean, you spend even more time in theaters than I do. Yeah. And I try to go weekly because we're doing a show that we weekly see a new movie.
That being said, if somehow it were to open for this movie, I am torn. Ultimately, I know I'm not going to go.
Yeah,
It's too soon.
I won't either. And like I said, and you living in New Jersey and not terribly far from the city, you have nearly as much danger as anyone living in New York does. You and I live equidistant basically from the city, at least by drive time, if not by actual physical distance. It's not safe. It's not going to be safe to do that in 2 months. Could it be safe in the fall? Maybe. Safer? Sure. But that's a really dumb decision. Now, could you and I park in adjacent cars at a drive-in movie theater and see this safely?
Hell yes.
Yes. Did New York State start pumping up the fact that they have the most drive-in movie theaters of any state in the nation this week? They sure did. And that's something that you can do safely because you don't have to leave the confines of your car. So I would be on board for finding a drive-in theater near me.
I think that would be the only way that we would be able to see this movie on release day,
which I would love to do, and then you and I could sit 30 feet apart from each other in my house, and because I know it's tough. We would love to be able to see each other. Actually, we're running into an issue where we are running out of beer, despite how much we had, and I don't necessarily feel 100% safe trying to send it to you in the mail. So mostly because I don't want to break federal law. But and like Caleb, who has been on with us a few weeks ago, he's going to be on with us probably next week or the week after to do another movie. And also, let's just mention it now. Caleb was one of my good friends. He did the artwork for our new logo for Flix and a Six. If you're listening to this, you've seen our new logo. Hopefully, he is a graphic designer by trade. Him and another friend of mine started a podcast. It's called Shortcast Pod. They talk about a bunch of different things. It's the first episode is out this week. It's about video games, MMA fighting, and kind of whatever else they wanted to talk about, news of the day stuff.
General things.
And
General.
While they're not part of the Spin Tune umbrella, and maybe they never will be, I imagine that we're going to have a pretty good relationship with their show.
Sure.
Because like I said, Cal's going to be back on next week or the week after. He's going to talk about his show on here. I'm going to go on their show. You know, maybe even Anthony could go on their show. It'd be cool.
Yeah.
And
this is a PSA. 2 podcasts. They're fun.
They are fun. So I saw Caleb last week. It was really awkward because he is living fully in his house. His girlfriend is still working, but she is a baker and she is working in a very small store, which she is the only person who's in there.
Mm-hmm.
So she's not too unsafe because she's not even in contact with customers. They're doing deliveries.
Right.
Caleb is thankfully now working from home. He had been laid off for a while. And I am working extremely publicly every day. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know that he got his job back and all that. So I brought him some Al's Ales to make him feel better. And I found that out, which was great.
Turned out to be a celebration.
But so I had to leave him his beer and stand in his hallway of his apartment building to talk to him because
shout at him.
Yeah, I didn't want to make him in a position to be unsafe.
Sure.
And so it's the same thing with you and me. Now, Caleb lives 20 minutes from me, and I literally was driving down the road he lives on between jobs on the day where I was working, and it was convenient for me to drop off beer. I knew I was going to be over there. Anthony lives almost 2 hours away from me. I can't do that, and he lives outside of the region that my company services, so it's not even like I could find a way
be in the vicinity.
Divert to him. I guess we could meet in the middle somewhere. But it's kind of
meet me in Montauk
for both of us.
I'm sorry.
So we would love to be able to do the show together. So maybe we'll do a drive-in and then we can sit 30 feet away from each other in my house.
Alternatively, you could sit on my deck and I could turn the TV in the den. And I could crank up. Oh, you know what? I'll put a couple speakers outside. I can make it work. Well,
I'm not so concerned about the watching so much as the recording. The acoustics would be terrible if we recorded outside.
100%. But only you would be outside. I would sound fantastic.
Yeah, and even with the closed glass door, you'll hear me just as clearly as anyone because I'll just be shouting at the door.
It's so true. Give me a new, would you?
All right. Do you want news on The Mandalorian Season 2, or do you want news on HBO Max?
Mando!
So, we've been getting little snippets of news from Mandalorian Season 2. So, this is on Slash Film. This is from yesterday. Exclusive. The Mandalorian Season 2 recruits Katie Sackhoff to play Bo-Katan in live action. Now, for those of you who don't know, Bo-Katan Kryze is an important character from Star Wars The Clone Wars, which just wrapped up its final season after it had been revived. I am like 3 or 4 episodes behind because I basically haven't lived for the past 3 weeks. I'm trying to catch up on... there's been a lot of series finales in the past couple of weeks, and I haven't got to watch any of them. I almost knocked out all of the final season of Brockmire. I was watching it right before we got on. I have 2 episodes left of that. I have, I think, 4 episodes left of The Clone Wars. I have like 6 episodes left of the final season of Homeland. And I just put my life on pause, basically all viewing other than The Last Dance and whatever movie we were doing for the show for the last 3 weeks. So anyway, this is from Slash Film. Battlestar Galactica star and Star Wars veteran Katie Sackhoff is joining The Mandalorian Season 2. We have exclusively learned that she will be playing a live-action version of Bo-Katan Kryze, a Mandalorian warrior she previously voiced in Dave Filoni's animated series Star Wars The Clone Wars and later Star Wars Rebels, as she was in the final season of Rebels. I actually didn't realize that she was the one who voiced her on the show.
Oh, cool.
I was familiar with the actress. I knew she was in Battlestar Galactica. I've seen her in a couple of things. The one thing I know was she was in one of the leads in one season of 24. I think I've seen her in something else, but I don't remember what it was now.
Man, every time 24 comes up, I like it's something that I have completely removed. Like it's not in the back of, it's like, I guess it's deep back there, but it's like not anywhere near the forefront of my mind. And then I remember that I've seen all of it. And you said that, and I remember her in it.
That was really the first show that I actually started watching as like an adolescent approaching young adulthood. Like I wasn't like when I was a little kid, like I watched all of like the Nickelodeon Disney stuff. There was a bunch of movies I liked. I didn't watch TV through like middle school, and like I would watch reruns of things or whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Some sports, obviously. But there was no shows that I followed back then. It wasn't until 24, I think the 3rd season, I started watching. My mom.
That's about when I got into it too. That's funny. My
mom loved the show, and I got into it in the 3rd season, and I watched it through, and that carried me into high school. I think the final season of that aired in 2007, 2008. That was the only show I really watched until I picked up Family Guy around that time. I will never forget with 24 having like starting around the same time, like 3 or 4 seasons in, and then like catching up on the previous ones with DVD box sets. I have the box set, I think, for season 1, and I don't think I ever even watched it. I watched through the first 2 seasons during a blizzard. Nice. It's great. There was chili. There was soup. It was good. It was a nice, warm and cozy counter-terrorist weekend. All right, continuing on with this. Although both Lucasfilm and Sackhoff's reps declined to comment, we have confirmed this story with multiple sources. She filmed her role back in February before Hollywood production shut down due to the global coronavirus pandemic. Sackhoff has made a career of playing complex sci-fi tough women, recently appearing in Netflix sci-fi drama series Another Life. I have to pause you there. Was that plural or singular? Woman or women? Woman. Okay, it sounded like you said woman, like one singular one that she's played over and over again in different movies. Woman and women are spelled exactly the same, except for an A and E at the end. Yeah, you got to commit, and you just go with it once you reach the end of the word. So that's what happened. Is I started reading it as if I was going to say singular woman, and then I realized that it was women. Woman. And so it came out to be woman, essentially. Whoa, man. She's made a career of playing complex sci-fi tough women. There it recently is. Appearing in Netflix sci-fi drama Another Life. Mandalorian Season 2 completed principal photography in March, and post-production is being done remotely. So the new episodes will still hit Disney Plus in October 2020. And it's going to be so sweet when it does. Bo-Katan first appeared in Season 4 of the Star Wars animated series, Star Wars The Clone Wars. The character was a Mandalorian warrior, a lieutenant in the radical splinter group Death Watch, second in command to the group's leader, Pre Vizsla. When Maul took possession of the Darksaber, executed Vizsla, and took the throne of Mandalore, Bo-Katan refused to accept the outsider as her new leader. She was instrumental in recruiting the Jedi and the Republic to lay siege to Mandalore and oust Maul. Later in Star Wars Rebels, Sabine Wren chose to pass the infamous weapon to Bo-Katan. Spoilers, Anthony. Dang. Believing that she could unite the Mandalorian clans. Well, it was only in the middle of that sentence that I realized that you haven't finished Rebels. So.
That's fine. By the time I'll finish it, it'll be a surprise of when it happens.
If you don't know the animated series, it all boils down to this. Bo-Katan was an instrumental Mandalorian leader who once wielded the Darksaber, a weapon that the villainous Moff Gideon now controls, as seen in the first season finale of The Mandalorian.
Nice. This is exciting. More news on this is exciting. Can't wait for season 2. I haven't taken a dive into it yet, but that documentary is out, or at least coming out in parts for the first season.
Yeah, I'd like to get to that eventually. That's I forget, there was a name for that thing. It's
Mandawatch.
Yeah, no, that's our thing. We're trademarking that. No, I forget what it's called, but there's a name for that thing that's releasing periodically on Disney Plus, it looks like.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what it's called. Galleries? Maybe? Something like that. Something along those lines. Cool. I'm excited. New characters. That's exciting. Or first time real action. Pretty cool. Man, there's a two awesome Star Wars things within a couple of weeks of each other. So looking forward to. I'm ready. I'm ready to get back in. Yeah. Ready for some Star Wars love. I figured I'd catch you up. I am still watching Scrubs. I am still loving every minute of it. That show, it's each week. I am so surprised that I was sleeping on this show. It's insane to me how much of a show it is for me.
I know. That's why I've been confused by this whole time. You're
so good.
Resistance. You're kind of hemmed and hawed to get started with. I know it's a lot, so it can be kind of intimidating, but
sure. But it is absolutely a blast. That being said, because Scrubs I'm just powering through episodes of Scrubs, which I'm only like a season and 3/4 in, because each season is a billion episodes.
Yeah, but they're only like 23 minutes long.
Sure, but I can't watch too many things in a row.
I feel like you can though.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. Even that 3 is like my limit.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
I like the binging experience. I mean, I've talked about it in the past. Sometimes you need to take a pause between watching episodes of Sopranos or episodes of The Wire or like Always Sunny or Curb Your Enthusiasm sometimes, because whether it be the darkness or the just absolutely cringiness, I do need a little palate cleanser in between occasionally.
Sure.
But Scrubs feels like the type of thing for me where I could watch 12 episodes if I had enough.
For me, it's more about the sitting viewing. Is I'm engaged for 1 to 2 stories at a time. So if it's a 3.5-hour movie, fine, it's one story. I'm totally engaged. And then, like, I don't know, a 30-minute show after that, great. But when you start reaching that third story, for whatever reason, I'm starting to fidget. I want to do other things. I want to move around. I don't know what it is.
So the big thing is, and you work from home full time, so you, I'm sure, know all the secrets. I treat my binging the way I do working from home. I get up after every episode, go to the bathroom, fill up my cup, maybe grab a snack, give myself 5-10 minutes in between episodes, and then get right back into it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. That could work.
Because otherwise, I agree, I get into the same sort of thing where I get a little fidgety if I'm just unbroken, not moving for a couple hours at a time.
When you become one with the couch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and I drink so much, and that's not actually a reflection of alcoholism. I mean, literally just water. I'll drink.
Same.
I drink over a gallon of water a day, in addition to a lot of coffee, and then probably usually a drink at the end of the night, if not more. Like when we're doing the show, I usually have 2. Like, I drink so much fluid that I have to take a piss every hour, basically. Sometimes more often than that.
Well, where that was going was that Sopranos is still on hold, and is indefinitely on hold while I enjoy something that I'm watching. But you did make you saying drink at the end of the night. Man, I am loving the Fernie Branca. And all I can think about is Alfred with every sip.
See, I wasn't 100% sure if that was something that you had or if you just saw it somewhere else.
No. Kim bought it for me because I've been wanting to try it since I've seen The Dark Knight.
But that was your birthday present was for you.
And
I'm sorry I didn't get you the $986 bottle of donuts.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we were close, but whatever. Give me your other new. Give it to me. What do you got?
Before I do that, though, can you figure out why I can't see you on the camera anymore?
Any more?
Yeah, I saw you before, and then I flipped screens, and then I came back, and now I see your little avatar on Skype, so... There you are.
Oh, I'm back.
Hey, there you are.
I'm back, baby!
So, you remember how a couple months ago we were talking about HBO Max?
No. Moving on.
No, we mentioned it a couple of times.
Yeah, no, yeah.
And... where we left off was we don't really know what it is other than a vehicle for some new exclusive content and also friends.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't understand who was going to have access to it.
And also Looney Tunes, right?
Yes, right? I believe so. Because it's a Warner property. But regardless, we had a lot of questions and concerns about it. And so the thing is, like a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, they made a big release of, hey, it's coming out then, and that date is, I think, May 27th, I believe.
Mama's birthday?
Yeah, that's right.
That's my mama's birthday.
Day before my sister's birthday. Friend of the show, occasional recurring guest, Gianna. But anyway, and I noticed some TV writers who I follow were mentioning how odd it is that the streaming service would have no information, nothing about what it's all about. Not even a date until so close to when the actual date of it dropping was. So, I found a thread on Twitter today describing the specifics of HBO Max.
Amazing.
Because, it's nice to know what the fuck it actually is. So, a thread from someone who writes from Variety. Her name is Cynthia Littleton. Since there have been questions about this, HBO Max will be free to HBO subscribers, which I mentioned was a big problem for me. I thought I was going to have to buy it on the side. And I was like, I'm not fucking doing that. I already pay for HBO. Well, I'm going to pay for another service on top of that.
Exactly.
Anyway, if you subscribe to HBO now, it will be the gateway to HBO Max starting May 27th. If you get HBO through and I don't know what this cluster of letters means, but MVPD, such as Charter, DirecTV, Hulu, the HBO Max app will be available on your homepage hub, and you'll log in using your MVPD authentication password. If you get HBO from an MVPD that does not have an HBO Max deal with Warner Media, you'll have to drop HBO via your MVPD and sign up online to buy HBO Max directly through Warner Media if you want the additional Max content. The price should be about the same, around $15 a month, unless you were getting a promotional discount. The HBO Max app encompasses Original Recipe HBO as a separate content hub, as well as the Max programming. Warner Media has a bunch of MVPD-HBO Max distribution packs coming prior to launch, which are expected to cover a large number of existing HBO subscribers, sparing people the hassle of dropping service and restarting. Whether Comcast and Dish will be there on day one is still an open question. The many iterations of HBO, where they came from and what will happen to them, are addressed in the sidebar from G. Daniel Holloway, and that's a story on Variety about, and the title is Why HBO Became the Brand to Anchor Warner Media's High-Stakes Streaming.
But that's just a bunch of words. Somewhere under the hood, something went wrong that they couldn't just update HBO Go /now.
No, what happened was this is how I'm reading this. They want to kill HBO Now and replace it with HBO Max without ostracizing actual HBO subscribers.
Right. Rebrand HBO Now.
That's essentially what this is.
Yeah, but it's not what they're saying. There's going to be an HBO Max application. You're going to have to delete your HBO Now application. It's really stupid.
Well, basically, it sounds like if you have HBO on an over-the-top box...
No, if you got it, you got it. That's all I got from this.
Well, if you got it, you got it with a couple of exceptions.
Sure.
Which, that largely works for me, and I know that could be kind of flippant towards the people who don't have one of those situations. But it sounds like...
But if you do have a multi-channel video programming distributor box...
The point is, if you have HBO Now, while you will have to go through a bit of a hassle to hook this up, like to change your account over to this, you'll still be getting it for about the same price.
Right.
You'll just have to go through some logistical bullshit.
Yeah, I'm just saying that part should not have been on the consumer.
Sure, I agree. They should just be able to replace it. But the point is, I guess, if you're going to do a rebrand, why not do a hard restart? It's not the end of the world.
It's not. It's just really dumb. And
well, I guess what I'll say is if you were a subscriber to HBO Now, you're savvy enough to figure out how to do the switch.
Sure.
You're not ostracizing some 80-year-old grandmother somewhere. If she has HBO, she'll have access to this in the same way.
Right. But just fix it.
Well, I guess rather than fix it, they just decided to build something from the ground up. And if that works for them, then why the hell not, I guess.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
I guess.
I guess it can be different with programming, but sometimes you're not going to be able to refurbish or remodel a house or a building. Sometimes it's better to just lay it to waste and build it from scratch.
Sure. It is rarely a good idea in programming, but I hear what you're saying.
I'll withhold judgment on that until I see the finished product, because actually HBO Go, and I don't have HBO now, I have HBO Go.
Go is a nightmare.
I actually was going to say just the opposite. I like HBO Go.
Oh, I can't stand it. It never works for me. I can't click through things right. It's super slow. I had HBO Now for a while, and it was awesome.
I've never had a problem with HBO Go. The only issue I've had with HBO Go is occasionally when I hard close the app and want to come back in the middle of an episode or something like that,
it's
sometimes
like not there.
It doesn't bookmark the exact moment that I left it off with. That's the only issue I've ever run.
On that note, I was watching The Sopranos, and the episode ended, and I hit the button to start the next episode, and the screen went black, and the screen came back, and it started, and it was like it was in the middle of an episode, and I was like, this is weird. Also, this is familiar. What happened here? And it was like in the middle of 2 episodes ago.
I would say that something like Netflix or Amazon does a much better job of letting you jump right back into where you were. But a lot of the other stuff, Netflix is probably the gold standard on that whole experience.
For sure.
Finding what you want to watch, assuming you know what you want to watch. Because
I just assume that when I'm watching Netflix that there's a Jim Carrey in a green jumpsuit somewhere with one of those plunger things on his head, just streaming my thoughts into his. A la Batman Forever.
That sort of thing is beyond what I'm talking about. Just as far as the actual user experience. If you know what you want to watch, because there's been the jokes for nearly 10 years now about how much time you can waste on the home screen trying to find something.
Oh, sure.
If you know what you want to watch on Netflix, whether it be picking up something you've already been watching, starting to watch something new. If you know what you want to watch, you can't really top the user interface that Netflix presents to you.
Agreed.
That being said, there's a lot of crap that you have to wade through at times with Amazon, but it still does a really good job of bookmarking, the place in the episode or movie you were watching.
Sure.
HBO, that's the only issue I have. Navigating it, I've never had an issue with. I actually have always liked the way that they display to you your options, the way that the search works, the way that they have really good descriptions and like ways to jump within a show. I've actually always liked that layout and the way that's presented to you.
One final piece for our news and notes segment, and it's just a light PSA. Buy movies. What I'm doing here is I'm holding up a Steelbook. It's not a great movie. It's a decent movie. It's Birds of Prey. Steelbook. Great artwork. Solid copy. Here's why. When you see a movie you like, or when you're interested in a movie, just buy it. Go to Best Buy on the website. Not in stores. Stores don't exist anymore, and they won't after this. But go on the website and pre-order it. Because someday, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, you're going to get a random package in the mail. And you'll be like, oh, a present. What is this? And it's going to be a movie with beautiful box art. And it's great. It's amazing. I love this. This happened to me with Star Wars recently. It happened to me with Jumanji. And it's now happened with Birds of Prey. I love getting these little boxes in the mail.
Also, added benefit, and I think it's something we kind of talked about, or maybe talked around a few weeks ago. I may have been sleeping through that conversation. Who knows?
Sure. As you do.
It's as I have done. Hopefully, will not be doing it. So far, I've been way more.
Yeah, you're good. You're wide awake today.
Well, the 4:30 latte I drank helped too. It was
nice.
It was a gift. Anyway, when you like something,
I thought you were just gonna say anyway. Blue.
I'm gonna have to drop. It's probably too soon. Maybe in a couple weeks I'll try and drop a blue. When you like something, it's nice to pay for it. Let's rewind to like the late 90s, early 2000s. There were movies that came out that flopped the box office.
Yeah.
And then people discovered them largely through AM Comedy Central viewings, occasionally a TNT or AMC, maybe HBO. And you watch this thing, and it's like, I didn't know that thing existed. Or maybe I heard it wasn't so good. I love this thing. Let me go buy it on VHS. Or maybe DVD if it was the early 2000s.
Sure.
Let me go buy that thing. And then a lot of people did that. And then they kept buying those things. And it made up for what looked like a bust at the box office with actually vibrant sales on DVD. Movies such as, let's say, Office Space. Along many others, but that's one I always know is talked about as the word of mouth cult classic. Anchorman, actually, to a certain extent, that was true as well.
Boondock Saints.
Boondock Saints almost exclusively how that. And so a lot of people bought physical copies of these movies. Now, it's 2020, so if you want to buy a digital copy, more power to you. But the point is, when you pay for the thing that you like, you get to see more of it.
Right.
And when you don't, then you don't. So movies that are really good that don't get what they deserve at the box office, because let's just call it what it is. Maybe the box office doesn't really appeal to you anymore. Maybe you just don't want to pay the prices. Maybe you're just too fucking lazy to go and see it. And you know that you can see it for free through pirating and streaming it. You know what? I'm not going to judge you for those things. I will judge you for complaining about there not being good movies out, though, because they exist.
Right.
And when you find them, if you don't then back it up with your dollar, you don't get more of the good stuff from the good people making the movie.
That's true.
I respect that about you. There's a lot of things that you have accessed and enjoyed in a digital fashion that didn't require you to separate from a single dollar in your pocket. And then you went back and made good on the social contract and you paid for the thing because you enjoyed it. And those dollars still matter, even after the box office is closed.
And I will say, there have been times where all I wanted to do was give you the dollars for the movie, and you just didn't let me. But now, like I'm saying, just pre-order these movies. They come when they come, and it's great. You just get a little treat in the mail, put them on your shelf. They look great. It's awesome. My movie collection is ever growing.
I was going to say, I don't mind the lease to buy model, and I'll say that loosely. Like, if you want to watch a movie by whatever means you want to watch, if you love it, go buy it. You buy it fucking used, whatever. The thing is, it still was purchased at some point. Spend some dollars on that thing. And I know right now, literally right now, it's tough to ask that of a lot of people because money is tight. But a year from now, say, everything is a little bit back to normal. Everyone's working better. Spend money on what's good. Pay for quality because that's the only way that quality gets. We've dealt with this. That is, and this isn't in any way, shape, or form political. There is a mentality in this country where we trend towards safety in business. Beer. This show loves beer, right? We talk about great beer.
This show does love beer.
We haven't done fucking Bud Light.
You know what else it
on
loves?
Show.
Bernie Branca.
We haven't done Bud Light on this show. I think we did Corona once as a joke for Fast and the Furious.
That sounds about right.
But, you know, the entire American beer industry for the last 60 years has been towards giving you the least offensive thing, the safest thing that a lot of people will drink. And that's not meant to be a judgment on that sort of thing. I've said on this show a lot of times, I don't judge anyone for liking what they like because it's quote unquote not as good as the thing I like. If you like the thing you like, that's fine. I just wish for you to register where it exists on the spectrum. We've talked about it with movies or TV shows. If you like something that's crappy because it makes you feel good, I have no problem with that as long as you don't try and hold it up in comparison to something that's better.
Right.
Like, you can enjoy it all you want. And I'm being 100% sincere. I will never judge you for saying I love this shitty thing. As long as you know it's shitty, I don't care. I really don't.
Mm-hmm.
If it makes you happy, then I'm happy for you. I really am. Same thing with beer. If you enjoy drinking Bud Light or Coors Light or whatever, I will never judge you. As long as you never say, like, the beer is good, because it's not. And this is coming from someone who appreciates what goes into the actual, like, engineering and manufacture of that beer. I appreciate the process, the quality control required to make every one of those cans or bottles taste exactly the same as the other one. That's not easy to do. That requires a lot.
While I completely agree with Al on all this, except don't tell me you liked Roma. Moving on. Let's get into fun and games.
Okay.
Of which this episode, Al, drum roll please, I've got 2 options for you. The first of which is, which of the Beatles are you? Or, which Beatles song are you?
Okay, so disclosure, before we do these games, quizzes, before we do this movie, I'm not really a Beatles fan.
That's fine.
Kind of like what we were just talking about with the beer and stuff. I appreciate why they're so highly regarded. Mm-hmm. They are absolutely revolutionary in the field. I don't love their songs.
Sure.
Their actual songs. I like a handful of them, but overall, I've never really been a huge fan of their sound.
The Beatles are to you as the Sopranos is to me.
Yeah, I guess that's probably pretty accurate. So I guess let's go with the Beatles song, because telling me I am a Beatle means nothing to me, because I don't really even know much about them specifically. I know John Lennon died. I know George Harrison died. I know how they died. Other than that, I don't know a ton. I don't even recognize which one of them is singing when their songs play. Fair
enough. All right, which Beatles song are you? This one might be a little bit difficult for you. Who is your favorite Beatle? Is it John, Paul, George, or Ringo? I'm going to give Ringo some love. I feel like Ringo doesn't.
I was thinking about that. That Family Guy joke about him is mean. It's funny, but it's mean. Let's go with Ringo.
All right, Ringo it is.
This is going to leave me with a song that I don't like, isn't it?
This is interesting. If you were a meal, what would you be? A family-style dinner to share with everyone? A quiet meal for 2 in a romantic restaurant? A popular dish everyone loves? Pasta, which was invented by the Chinese, not the Italians? Rose water and bamboo shoots with a shot of wheatgrass?
Wait, so which is my favorite meal, or this is which meal am I?
Which meal would you be if you were a meal? It can be a family-style dinner.
To say, I don't even know what the fuck this all means. Sure, why not?
How do you unwind after a long day? Didn't we have this question last week? Netflix, a long conversation.
You expect me to remember something from last week?
Netflix, a long conversation with my best friend, meditation, cuddling with my SO, going for a walk through my neighborhood.
I'm sorry. I got so thrown off by the SO thing. Can you repeat that whole thing for me, please?
Sure. How do you unwind after a long day? Netflix, a long conversation with my best friend, meditation, cuddling with my SO, going for a walk through my neighborhood.
Okay. Let's go with the Netflix one.
Yeah, I think the last week it was a similar question, and you went with TV.
Yeah, so consistency.
Pick an instrument. Okay, we have a guitar. We have just the worst picture of the piano that I've ever seen. A couple of maracas, an oboe, a accordion, and it's just a picture of a rock band that says all of the above.
If you don't pick maracas...
You could say you don't like maracas, but you can't tell me that they're not the greatest instrument of all time.
That's basically what I'm saying.
All right. A coworker takes credit for your work. What do? Nothing. Applaud them for acknowledging the great work I did. Vent about it for a few beers with my buddies. Stew about it in silence. Let it go.
With the buddies.
I feel like this quiz is has weirdly existential questions that are going to reveal some Beatles song answer.
That too.
Right.
Also, haven't some of these had 5 options? There's only 4 Beatles, as last said.
That's true. So there's definitely
except for that one skit in with Bob and Dave where they talked about the 5th Beatle dying, who no one knew about but instantly missed. I don't know if you remember that skit.
Yeah. Yes. All right. Pick your poison: whiskey, wine, tea, chicken soup, chocolate, or Facebook.
Whiskey next.
But did you hear the other options?
No, I don't even remember the question. I just heard whiskey and wine, and I went with whiskey.
Which Beatles style do you prefer? Mop tops and matching suits, Sgt. Pepper mustaches and colorful outfits, long hair, beards, and comfy clothes.
The suits one.
Okay. How many questions is this quiz? All you need is love, recognition, friends, memories, success, peace.
Wait, so it was love, recognition, and then what else?
Friends, memories, success, or peace.
Let's go with friends.
Okay. I'm down with that. What color do you gravitate towards? White, blue, pink, red, green, or yellow?
Green.
He's a green guy. Just want you to know that it looks like the slime from Nickelodeon. The world will end in 2 days. What do? Grab my boo and spend that time cuddling and professing our love for one another? Grab my closest friend and spend time cuddling and professing our love for one another? No, it says, sorry, I made that one up. Grab my boo, that one. Then it was grab my closest friend and have a party where we talk about the good times, meditate on the inevitable, and be at peace with it all. Hit up the karaoke bar and sing my heart out.
Well, I've only barely dipped my toe in the water of karaokeing and never really had much success with the whole boo thing. So let's go with have a party with my best friend.
Sounds good. We're calculating your results, sir. Are you ready?
Sure.
God damn it, this is the one that makes me take a short quiz to get the results.
Wait, a quiz inside of a quiz?
Hang on.
Quizception?
Almost done. Answer these questions to see your result. This 1 max per day anonymous opinion survey helps keep the website free. All right, fine. Please indicate your age. Okay.
Household income.
Interesting. My
Social
age
Security
is
number.
not on there. What a weird thing to have. Ranges that skip a year. I don't
Just
think
for
I'm allowed to
one
answer
specific
this.
year?
All right.
Wait, how old are you now? 31?
32.
32? Look at me flattering you unintentionally.
Oh no. Crap.
What happened?
I clicked. It said, which language do you prefer? And I accidentally clicked Spanish.
So you picked Mandarin Chinese, didn't you? Spanish, at least you have a chance.
Hang on. Oh my god. Is there a way to get to the answer of the quiz?
Didn't you take Italian for like 6 years? You should probably be able to figure out Spanish.
Oh my god. Oh my god. There's so many questions. There's so many questions, Al.
You couldn't just hit
It
back?
says a short quiz. No, it's still going this thing to get me the answer. I had to take this short quiz to get an answer.
The short 6 questions in Spanish quiz.
Oh my god. I got it. Okay, we're at the end. I just started jamming on the keyboard and just submitting that as my answer. Your Beatles song is with a little help from my friends. You're a big fan of comfort and spending time with the people you love the most. There was a giant gap between that last word and the next part of the sentence. You are charming and always the life of the party. Al?
I have definitely been guilty of being the life of the party on occasion, but I wouldn't say I'm always.
I will say that there is a general consensus in this house that we have just this running list of these are the people that stay to the end of the party. You're always on that list.
Well, I always stay at your house after the party. So.
That's true, but even when it was a remote party, you stayed to the end. And
true, I slept through the end, but I was there.
You were there.
I was not there in spirit, but I was there in body.
Well, sir, with that, let us get into our flick of the week. Across the Universe, released on the 12th of October, 2007, rated PG-13, is a drama fantasy history. History? Light history.
I mean, it was history in the way that Forrest Gump was history.
They're really going to try to trip me up with this synopsis, so bear with me. But the music of the Beatles and the Vietnam War, from the backdrop for the romance between an upper-class American girl and a poor Liverpudlian artist.
Yes, Liverpudlian.
Liverpudlian? Is that what you would call someone from Liverpool?
I believe so. I'm not looking at the word, but I believe that's the word.
That's ridiculous. Was that a sentence that I just read?
I don't think you finished it. No, it is a sentence. But yeah, that's a U. So yes, I was correct. Liverpudlian. The music of the Beatles and the Vietnam War formed the backdrop for the romance between an upper-class American girl and a poor Liverpudlian artist. I almost said actress. I don't know why.
Yeah. Anyway, that's an okay synopsis. My tweet-length review is the better synopsis, so I'm going to dive right into that for you. A stylish musical bolstered by highly thematic renditions of the Beatles' greatest hits, following a group of interconnected young adult lost souls exploring the meaning of self, love, and purpose as they navigate through a distressingly uncertain time.
That was definitely longer than one tweet. Sorry, what did you...
out of 10.
I went with a slightly cheesy / corny, but earnest and heartfelt look at life, love, and growing up in the 1960s, set to the music of the Beatles.
Rating?
7.5 out of 10.
Both accurate. Both accurate synopsis, better than the one from IMDb.
Well, I believe both of ours was slightly... Well, yours definitely was longer than that one. Mine was slightly longer than that one. Well, you know what? I mean, we traded stuff that we did. Neither of us touched on the fact that it was this whole East meets West thing, you know.
Sure. We left out the Liverpudlian of it all.
Well, yeah, like they said, lower class British, upper class American.
Sure.
It is an important distinction to make. I don't know if it's as important as the things that we mentioned. So.
Right. I think all souls in the movie were equally lost, trying to find their way. Regardless of background.
Really, literally. I mean, was anyone more lost than Prudence?
Oh,
I mean, literally got
Prudence.
lost in the movie. She just doesn't exist in the final third of the movie.
She comes back.
Yeah, the very final scene.
And then,
with no explanation as to where she's been for the past few years.
Oh, no, she comes back in between that.
When?
It's hard to notice.
She's in the acid trip.
Oh, yeah. She's in the acid trip, and she's at the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right.
But we lost her for a couple of years.
That's true. But we knew she ran away.
We weren't even 100% sure she was in the acid trip. It's just someone's like, is that
That's Prudence.
And like the acid could have explained it away.
Maybe Prudence isn't real.
Whoa! Maybe Prudence is just the friends we made along the way.
Things that jump out to me in our general impressions of this movie. Really stylish. Love the color palette. Like, it's a very pretty movie.
It was extremely 1960s. It was extremely 1960s on acid at times. Not the whole time, but at times.
It is extremely 1960s as depicted in 2007. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. I mean, listen. Did the Beatles have haircuts that would have fit in with the emo scene of the mid-aughts? Sure. Did Jim Sturgis have the most egregious version of that? Also sure.
Yes.
So yes, there was some extremely 1960s via 2000 something in that.
There's a shot in the movie that I never noticed before this particular viewing of it. Very early on, opening of the movie is Jim Sturgis singing "Is There Anybody Going to Listen to My Story?" That whole jam. Just the opening of that song. Anyway, as it fades, the camera pulls in slowly, and it fades to black and white as it goes through, and then we start to get flashes of the 60s, right? Things that are happening here and there. But as it fades in, what you get is his hair kind of hanging down low in front of his face with his head slightly cocked to the side. And it's actually an iconic picture of John Lennon.
Oh, really?
It's like him reposing for it. And they focus on it and freeze it at just the last second. as it fades out and the rest of the stuff comes in. And it's the first time that I noticed it.
I mean, there was obviously a lot of layers to that
Sure.
whole situation. He's named Jude. There's the song "Hey Jude." Wasn't that the name of John Lennon's son? Wasn't it? Oh no, Julian. Sorry, I think it was Julian.
Well, here's where we're going to show our hand a little bit early. But as you mentioned earlier, you're not a huge fan of the Beatles. I was not. They weren't really even someone like a band that I listened to in depth until I actually saw this movie.
Which was when?
I saw it when it came out.
Oh,
in 2007.
Was only the barest, most vaguely familiar with this movie's existence. I had no idea what it was about. Like, it was just when you mentioned the title, I was like, that sounds oddly familiar. And then when I looked up what it was about and who was in it, I said, no, none of this rings a bell. I just remember that the movie existed.
Gotcha. Yeah, this was I was never super into the Beatles. Not because I disliked them. It just something that never really came up for me. Like, I was just never like sat and listened to their music. This movie put them on the map for me. And I listened to like their whole back catalog and like went through all their weird stuff too. And I enjoyed it. One thing I called out early on in the movie, I actually prefer these renditions of the songs.
Well, that's definitely true because they modernized them while still staying true to what those songs were. Mm-hmm. Largely, they weren't influencing it with the actual sounds of the time period where the movie itself was made in, with the exception of in the beginning when they're doing that whole like Capulet Montague type thing where they're showing her life and his life, and I don't remember what song they're singing, but when he's in the club, I actually for a second didn't realize the movie was going to take place in the 1960s. I thought it was going to be the mid-2000s because that could have been pulled out of any scene in the mid-2000s. You could have put any of those fucking My Chemical Romance, whoever, and it would have like totally fit with what was going on and the sound coming out of that. So, I'm still caught up on the hair because he was like Billy Joe from Green Day in the front and anyone from any emo band in the back.
Other basics to get through. I think the performances are really well done. I think they knocked it out of the park with character chemistry.
Yes, the chemistry was really, really great, and it's not just the two leads; it's all of them with all of the like attendant hanger-on, like with whether you could talk about like them with Prudence, Sadie with I forget the name of the guitarist because actually, do they even really say his name?
Is it Joe?
What? No,
Max. Nope.
No, Max was
Max.
JoJo. Yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah, Sadie and JoJo, Max and Jude. Like, I was sold on Max and her being brother and sister. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
It was all of the connective.
I don't know how, but they nailed it like perfectly. They really, you know what? It hit me. I think it was like halfway through the movie, or maybe a third through the movie, where Jude said, referring to Max, says, "I love the booger," and I went, "Oh." I was like, "Why does this matter so much to me?" And I was like, "Oh, it's because I believe him."
It felt really real. Their interactions with each other, brother, sister, roommate, friend, bandmate, just person who's kind of there. They felt like a real group of friends who at times may have been frenemies, like
right.
And this one's having sex with that one, but they're dropping this one, and that one's got an unrequited love thing.
But it was the '60s, man.
But the thing is, it could have fit with right now. I've even felt like it reminded me of some of the times I've had with groups of my friends, and none of us have done hardcore drugs they were doing or been in bands or lived illegally in New York City, and that doesn't matter. It felt that same camaraderie that I felt along my inner group of friends.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Other things that really spoke to me, the choreography and set design, like not things that I normally am calling out, but holy crap.
Well, those
so
are
cool.
important things in a musical. And
for sure.
Then they were judicious with it so as not to overwhelm you with the musicalness of it. But when they picked their spots with the set pieces, they crushed it.
Like the specifically when Max is going in to get his physical for the
horrifying as that scene was, and I mean literally just the masks that the soldiers are wearing.
Yeah, terrifying. But the conveyor belt dancing, swirling around, like
and
combat
even the way
training.
that the cubicles drop on.
So cool, like as prisons and block. Yeah, it's awesome. It's so well done, and there's a decent amount of cameos in the movie as well,
including extremely famous musical cameos. Having Bono, first of all, I literally can't stand. I absolutely loathe I Am the Walrus. I actually dug Bono's version of it.
Yeah.
And the acid trip thing totally fit with all of it. Joe Cocker playing 3 or 4 different roles.
So
in that
good.
Scene was great. Him in his pimp outfit.
Yep.
It was the first time in my life I ever kind of wanted to be a pimp. So me to dress like he was. Because I would literally never be caught dead in that outfit, but it was incredible.
Sure. Yeah, no, he really crushed it. There's also a scene where Salma Hayek plays like 10 nurses. Not sure what that was about.
Yeah,
it was
10
really
copies
short.
of the same nurse. I didn't realize she could sing. I didn't know that was a thing that happened. It makes sense. I was really confused and surprised as to her being in it until I realized that Julie Taymor also directed Frida, and then it clicked for me.
There we
so
go.
You gotta make the
There we go.
association. Eddie Izzard,
Yep.
which, by the way,
Mr. Kite.
yeah. When we get to least favorite moment of the movie, we'll talk about the acid trips. But
those are Kim's as well.
the thing is, and I guess I can just get to mine now.
Sure.
I understand and appreciate why they have to have that when you consider the context of the history of the Beatles. And
Just one thing that we fail to do, I've realized over the past 128 episodes, is we don't give enough context about the specific scene that we're talking about. So walk the folks through that specific scene.
Okay, so they all decide to do acid at this party in which Sadie is going to be signed to a major record label, and then Bono, who's playing a fictional, fake, famous singer 10 years, whatever, predating what Bono actually got famous. He performs I Am the Walrus, as I said, quite admirably, because I can't stand that song. And I dug that whole scene. They all do acid. You get funky colors, cuckoo, and then they decide to take a cross-country road trip in a bus with a rear seat facing outward. That is a cat. Deeply unsafe. And there's no way they could drive 3,000 miles with that on there.
That's how they offload people. Every time they hit a bump, the group gets just a little smaller.
There's just no way they could have driven 3,000 miles with that on the back without getting pulled over.
Yeah.
And then, after that whole sequence, which actually, like, if they just left that, totally would have dug it, totally would have understood why it has to be a part of it. You can't talk about the breadth of the Beatles experience without talking about the acid phase.
Sure.
But then we got a whole nother sequence directly after that with Mr. Kite. Now, I'm conflicted there because I hated what was going on because it was extremely Pink Elephant's Dumbo.
Allow me to jump in. Hated what was going on, but loved the line, "It's me in the thing with the stuff."
Well, that's why I'm conflicted, because we would have been deprived the opportunity for Eddie Izzard to be doing just all of that thing and stuff. Which, Eddie Izzard's great.
I got blue people, you're gonna love it.
That was a funny line. And also, hey, is that Prudence? And then they just don't follow up on that at all. And it was, now whether she was real or not, I couldn't possibly tell.
Right, or she was just a trip. For sure.
But that, on the back of the walrus sequence, was totally unnecessary because we got bogged down in...
Why couldn't you leave that as on the back of the walrus? Perfect opportunity.
It felt like I was going to be missing the end of that sentence, so I felt like I needed something to really stick
on the back of the walrus.
I feel like the movie needed to have one or the other, but if we had cut one of them, we would have been deprived one of those excellent cameos.
That's true. And I kind of wonder if that actually was a tough decision to make.
Yes, probably.
It seems like it might have been.
So I get taught with like, well, could they have cut it into 2 separate sequences in separate places? And then that might have felt boring and repetitive, but also letting it just ride for 20 minutes felt like too much. Mm-hmm. It's the only time where the movie drags a little bit. And I still appreciate parts of it, but it's just too much, and that's my least favorite part of that band, while still understanding why it's super relevant and necessary to portray that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That I understand that from folks that I know that have seen the movie. generally agree that like that part is a little bit too much.
It's just too much.
It doesn't. I completely understand. It doesn't bother me, but I get where everybody's coming from. There is one part of the movie that I'm not a huge fan of, and it's unfortunate because it's the only song that felt contrived. It was doing Strawberry Fields, and when he's pinning the strawberries to the paper and that song is playing and they're singing it, it just doesn't quite land the same way and have the same meaning that any of the other renditions had. It just felt like they wanted to add that song into the catalog also.
Sure, but at least it ended up sticking, like it mattered, like the whole...
It definitely mattered. I agree.
Creating the strawberry logo and carrying it through. Now, that whole thing probably exists to justify having the song, but it justifies it.
Sure, those parts are actually good. It's just something about the length of that scene and the two things that are going on in it with the flashbacks to Max. Well, the flash crosses to Max being in the war. To these two people at home that are still kind of lost. The sister that doesn't know what is going on in the world, how to deal with it, feels like she needs to be involved but doesn't know how, and is trying to do the best she can. And the other side of it is Jude, who's kind of crippled by like almost like dismissive because there's nothing. He feels that nothing that he'll do will make a difference. So he's just living in this world trying to make sense of things when nothing makes sense. And it's a very powerful scene, or segment, I should say. But for whatever reason, and I love the creation of the logo and that. I think it's really cool. I also think it's awesome later when we jump and we see it on the wall and like it's the strawberry. It's great. It's just the execution in that moment. That song just didn't fit for me.
It's also probably the one that got the most updating of any of the songs. Which actually is probably something that worked for me because I'm not a huge fan of that song.
Sure.
In general. Also, I mean, I probably didn't even know a third of the songs in this movie. Now, because it was a song, I was like, oh, this is a Beatles song.
Sure.
Although once or twice I was like, is this a Beatles song? Because it feels too on the nose for the scene. Like, was this one of those ones that, did they write a song in the style of the Beatles to like fit this or not? But because there's a few of them that I didn't know that like at least it like fit and it felt right with like both the Beatles and what was going on. It didn't feel overly contrived, whereas in that one obviously is to a certain extent. But like I said, they at least retroactively justify it by having the logo matter throughout the course of the rest of the movie. So that like ties up that bow for me. I enjoyed that rendition of the song. I actually, like you said, that scene is really powerful, juxtaposing each of their wars. His literal war, Max, as he's in Vietnam.
Right.
Jude's metaphorical war of coming to terms with what he's putting himself into, how he's channeling his own frustrations, and Lucy's war internally about the confusion with what's going on around her in the big picture and in the small picture of the war she's fighting and worrying over her brother, worrying over her like absolutely flailing relationship with Jude, and then obviously what's going on with her cause in trying to end the war to get her brother home.
Yeah, it's very. It's moving for whatever reason. You know what it is? I feel like lyrically, I wasn't making the connection that they wanted me to make.
That I think I totally agree with, but I did feel like on a more visceral level, the actual music fit really well with what was going on. It's kind of dripping with that tension and anxiety.
I wonder if it would have been better as an instrumental.
Probably. Except for the fact that I think they wanted you to make the literal cue in case maybe even though I obviously know that song, if you don't necessarily know the Beatles, I think they wanted to, well, why is he playing with all these strawberries? Oh, it's because of strawberry fields, And
they don't need to hold my hand through it. 9 out of 10
people, what's up? What'd you say?
I said they don't need to hold my hand through it.
Well, like I said, they had.
You know what's worse is you made me repeat it.
I know, because I didn't realize you were trying to sneak that in there. but I understand probably. I agree. It would have been best served as an instrumental because the music meant more to me for sure than the lyrics did in that scene.
So that was really, I mean, that's my only issues with the movie are when a song doesn't feel like it fits what's actually happening around it. That being said, the scenes have always been great. Another one where it's interesting is like they wanted to put "Let It Be" in there, and they did it in this really interesting way of making just this one-off piece of the story, like introducing JoJo, but like not so. Like, it was like a interesting introduction to him, but like the Detroit riots and then the kid singing the song, like it's hauntingly beautiful. But it was like it's weird. Like it's like almost forced in to intro that character when like if he just showed up on a bus, it would have also been fine. But like just giving that background was only, I feel like, was only there to one depict this one thing that they also wanted to touch on, but like they did it in a really beautiful way, and that one doesn't bother me at all.
It's funny, this is not a short movie. It's a little over 2 hours long.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's only really that one little segment with the acid stuff that drags a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back at it, they found a way to fit so much character arcs and story beats, and they did it by being very efficient and judicious with how and what they want to do. Because they would say, we're going to be... I wasn't doing a Jew. They found a way to be hyper efficient with, we're going to spend the next 5 minutes delving into this character and their life. And that's it. It was the sole focus, and maybe it spanned some time at times, depending on what was going on, what character it was. And you feel like you're in such a poignant, vibrant snapshot of that person's life. And you rarely see that sort of efficiency and that sort of thing where it's like, I feel like I intimately know this character in a way that I don't even feel about 2 hours of a movie about someone else.
Yeah.
Which I can't really describe the modality by which they achieved that. I just know that
they used the best parts of the art form. Yes. And they used them all to their max.
Do you know what this reminded me of? Did you ever watch Master of None on Netflix?
No, I haven't.
That's a really good show. That's worth the watch. And they do this thing where, sometimes there's a show, and you'll see it, we've mocked it on this show, and it's been mocked even more than us out in the world, like on The Walking Dead, where they start picking up a storyline of a character that's largely been in the background, and it's like, oh, this character's going to die. That's the only reason that they gave them a bunch of backstory. And lo and behold, 9 times out of 10, that's the case.
Yeah.
And so Master of None took that into a whole new level, both in the breadth of how they do it and in the fact that it has real, tangible impact of whatever sort, where it's a story about Aziz's character, and I don't actually remember what his name on the show. It's been a few years since the second season of that show was out. And, it follows him largely, and it follows his friends, but every once in a while they'll do an episode about one of his friends. And he's actually a supporting character in the story. That's cool. Or sometimes it'll be about a totally random character. He might even barely be in the episode, or anyone.
Like the Simon episode of High Fidelity.
Yes. Well, there's a couple of episodes like the Simon episode, but like in the second season, there's an episode that's almost entirely about a bunch of I think it's a couple of random people in New York City. He is in the background for like 2 minutes at some point, and then just follows these random people who aren't even in the show.
That makes me really want to watch it. That sounds really cool.
It's a really good show, despite whatever troubles and stuff around some of that stuff with Aziz Ansari. It sounds like that's kind of been left behind for better or worse. I don't know. That's not really why I want to get into this. The point I'm making is, following Prudence for a few minutes is largely irrelevant to the story, and yet is so very important in painting the picture of this group of people.
Yeah.
And why every little battle feels so important for all of them, and what it's like to be a person in this time. And they give you, with the ensemble, this whole snapshot of so many people of, similar ages, but not exactly the same age in this time. And you have white, and you have black, and you have Asian, and you have rich, and you have poor, man, woman, revolutionaries, people who want to be like tried and true about their business. You have
different sexualities.
All of it. And, like I said, you could spend 5 minutes on one of these characters and then not see them on screen again in a relevant manner. They might be in the back of a scene.
But in those 5 minutes, you're told and given so much story.
Yes, and it's incredible because I remember I was watching the movie and I paused it. It was about the halfway mark, which it was an hour 10, something like that. And I was like, feels like I've been watching this movie for 2 hours, but not in the sense of it was dragging. It just felt it was so dense and rich in its storytelling and world building. There was zero wasted space in this movie.
You know which one when Prudence is singing "I Want to Hold Your Hand," like it's like I don't know, maybe like 2.5 to 3 minutes.
Talk about layers, man.
it's so like taking that song and putting that spin context on it was like the person like being out of reach, and because they're not they don't see each other the same way. Like it was so sad for such a hopeful song.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite Beatles song. And yeah, it's a song that I've always thought of as a peppy, upbeat, we're just going to have a fun time singing the song for the next 4 minutes. You know what I mean? Or however long it is. And yeah, they slow it down and make it into like a dirge for her total, like trying to unburden her repressed feelings for Sadie. And it's almost like she's giving a eulogy for what she can't have, even though it's meant to be, like you said, an outreaching, bridging gaps, and it feels like there's the divide is growing wider and wider as the course of that song is going on.
Yeah, it's like because like when you listen to that song in its normal state, you're thinking it feels like it's like two people that are really close, and it's like they're reaching that stage of like telling each other about their feelings, and it's like you almost like already know the person's going to accept them, but it's still that nervousness. That's what I feel like. That's what that song feels like to me. But then when she sings it in the way she does from a distance, looking at the other cheerleader from the bleachers, and she's like, she knows it's not going to be returned. And it's like a lost hope. And it's just, the way that they were able to spin that song and make it so sad was very impressive to me.
Also, I was really confused because a lot of that doesn't look like any football practice I was about. And sure, that comes down to the choreography largely, but still.
Sure. So bringing up the music, I feel like musicals are divisive. I feel like I don't know people that are in the gray area of whatever. I feel like people either love them or dislike them. I feel like you might actually be the one person that can I'm not sure if you fall in the middle. Like I love musicals. I'm a sucker for musicals.
I was gonna say, let me be the person who tells you, not I'm indifferent to them, but I wouldn't.
But you could take or leave. Yeah,
I really never seek out a musical, but I've watched a good handful of them that I've enjoyed.
See, like for me, I'm on the side where I see a story that's interesting to me that I like, I'm curious about, and then find out that it's a musical and like amps it up for me.
No, for me, it actually makes me go, okay, let's brace ourselves. Let's see how this is going to go.
Right.
Well, the funny thing was that I watched that Sunday. Yeah, I remember saying it Sunday night. So I watched that one I watched Across the Universe with Dominic. And then that night I watched Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again.
Sure.
Which, did I ever tell you that story from when I saw the trailer for that for the first time with Gianna when we were going to see a movie?
Vaguely. I vaguely remember this. You might have told it on this show, but go for it anyway.
I think so. I don't even remember what movie we were going to see. It was just me and her, and the trailer came on, and I think I had heard that they were doing the movie. And so she loved the first movie. She didn't know they were doing a sequel. And I knew they were doing a sequel, but I hadn't seen the trailer. So it comes on, and I leaned across to her and I said, "This is the Mamma Mia sequel. To Mama, to Mia."
That's right.
And she almost like fell out of the chair. So we always call it Tu Mama Tu Mia. But
I like that.
I watched that with my mom and my sister, and I said, you know, if you told me when this day started that I was going to watch 2 musicals, I'd call you a liar.
That's awesome. Getting into let's get into some of we discussed some of our least favorite moments, but I want the favorites. What are the moments that really shine for you in this movie? Give me your. Let's maybe narrow it to top 3 or 4.
Okay, so I'll tell you is the one that came to mind, and I had a lot of moments I liked in the movie. We've actually already talked about some of them, but
sure.
When I sat down and thought, what was my favorite moment in the movie? What came to mind was the whole transition of sequences at Princeton when Jude first meets Max. And it starts with Max and his frat buddies, I assume they were in a fraternity, hitting golf balls from the roof of that one building, drilling it into the window of a dorm.
Yep.
Them talking shit. You know, they're all drunk, obviously. The guy comes chasing them. There's this whole drunken flight as they're trying to escape. He meets Jude for the second time. Jude shelters him as he's trying to...
And a friendship is born.
A friendship is born, and you have that whole sequence of the drunken cavorting. That was just that whole, you know, bing, bing, bing of those 2 scenes in a row. Was so much fun. I don't even remember what song they were singing during.
Get by with a little help from my friends.
I thought that was what it was,
yeah.
Which is funny when that came up for me for fun and games.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't even think I ever registered. I'm not even a huge fan of that song, but I did like that version of it in the movie.
That's actually on my list too. That scene is tremendous. It's so much fun. It's also so like
fun.
It's the college. It's like the college movie fun feel, but it's less gross.
Yeah.
You know, it's more of like innocent.
And as far as this movie, the stakes were still pretty low.
Yeah.
Like, the worst thing that happened was, like, a window went out and someone was mad. Like, no one was dying. No one was protesting. No one was blowing anything up. No one was getting blown up. Like,
right.
It was, no one hated each other. It was just largely collegial fun. It was a good time.
So it's so good.
That was a moment where the choreography was, entertaining, where they're sliding down the banners.
Oh yeah, and they're drunk and picking each other up and swaying back and forth.
Yeah, it just looked like a good time. Like, I wanted to be a part of it. I want to. Hell, right now with no social life at all with the pandemic, like, I just want to go out and have fun with some new friends at a bar. It just looked like a great time.
That I will say, in the midst of all that, there's one scene. Every time it gets me, I get like super nervous. Like, this time it's going to go wrong, even though the movie is going to be the same every time I watch it. But when he has the tea in his mouth and he's moving it back and forth as they put the ball on it, and then Max takes a swing, I always have the worst image in my head of what's about to happen, and it never comes true.
As soon as I set it up, I was like, this can't end well.
Oh man, but I agree. That scene is definitely, it's up there. That I actually have that second. My number one, I think, I was trying to pick. I was actually torn between that one and the one that I ended up going with, which is the I've Just Seen a Face bowling sequence, which is incredible choreography to the point where I paused the movie and I asked him, how many times do you think they had to shoot that? And that's when everybody, like, one beat off, throws the bowling ball down the lane.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, there's no way they got this right even the 20th time.
There was a few times where they were, like, there was moments of, like, tight choreography like that where I was like, man, how many times did, like, someone break laughing during this? Or
right.
Something like that. Or someone just, like, slip and fall, or something was just off and they had to do the whole thing over again.
Well, yeah,
Either
they run.
Or just everyone's laughing, and I'm not entirely sure which.
Right. They're running and they're jumping clear over the ball return. And, like, in, like, this fancy, like, hatchet man pose as they do it. And each time they do it like 3 or 4 times in a row. I'm like, someone 100% clipped their foot and fell flat on their face during the filming of this.
Oh, someone definitely did.
And then sliding down the lanes, that also looked like something I would really like to try to do.
Would be disastrous results, of course.
Oh, absolutely. Ruining an oil pattern and then also, like, breaking myself when I hit the end.
Exactly.
But it's great. It's a great fun scene.
I was going to say the parallel, like, closing scene to what I mentioned as my favorite one that also I loved is when Jude, I guess we're not doing the formal spoiler, not spoiler thing in this movie.
It's old enough, and it's also like, honestly, this is one movie where you can tell everybody exactly what happened. Seeing the movie is different.
Yeah. Well, anyway, when Jude comes back to America,
I guarantee you, I have the same thing written down.
and him and Max see each other for the first time in literally must be years at this point, because Max has been over in Vietnam. Jude was still in the U.S. Jude gets deported back to the U.K. Max has come back in that time. They haven't seen each other in quite some time. Jude and Lucy have had their, just devastating falling out. That scene of just pure, unadulterated joy. Know how many people are going to be doing that whenever it's relatively safe to see each other again?
Well, next time I see you,
exactly.
Yeah. I'm just gonna, as you're coming towards me, I'm just gonna yell, Judah.
Oh, see, I assumed you were gonna yell Eagle. Have you gotten to Eagle yet?
Have I gotten to what?
Eagle?
No.
Scrubs?
No.
Oh, okay. So, yeah.
I just thought I was picturing you with your arms out. That's why I thought you were saying Eagle.
Well, it's going to be you doing the arms out.
Okay, got it.
So I'm assuming you're going to be JD and I'm going to be Turk in this scene.
Fair enough.
Eagle!
But oh man, that is a great scene when they get back together. I also love what the more innocent part of that scene is when they're in the cab. Did you tell Lucy? And he's like, nope. I love that he's so excited for her to find out too, like, because he loves his sister, but he loves his brother too, his fake brother that he wants them to get together so bad.
It's so great considering how that started, where it's like, nope, and then it's like, please don't, and it's like, well, if you're gonna, and now it's please do. For the love of God, please do.
The last one I have on here, as far as like favorite scenes go, is it gets me every time when Jude bursts into the office where Lucy's working and starts singing Revolution, and he's like kind of drunk and he's all a little bit angsty and he's throwing things around the room. It's such a fun execution of that song, which
it probably shouldn't be fun, but it is.
No, it's also, it is, what's happening is dark though.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
but yeah,
be fun, but it is.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
specifically when he gets pulled out and he comes right back in singing. Yes.
Please escort this man out of here. And it was like, okay, let me hear him out. Oh, get him out of here. Yeah. This movie was guilty of, and so many movies are, when you reach that peak of the argument or the tension between two leads, and it's just like, just say the things that you have to say. Like, I get mad at it all the time, and sometimes it's poor writing, sometimes it's a thing I've had to struggle with, and I think I've gotten it right more often than not in recent years, but I'm still guilty of it as anyone. There's the best analogy I can come up with is the complaints over it in something like Star Wars The Last Jedi, where people complain about, oh, this thing is so stupid, and it's like, that these decisions that person made is so stupid or whatever, and it's like, you do realize that even though you know the right answer, we don't always make the right choices. Like, we're caught up in our own biases or our own flaws or insecurities or whatever, and sometimes you do the wrong thing, even though you know you're doing the wrong thing. And it's not even self-sabotage per se. Sometimes you can't get past it. You can't find the way how to say the thing or do the thing that you know you need to do.
Right.
Or sometimes you just kind of fizzle out and do the wrong thing, even though you know you're doing it. And it's like, but I can't actually divert my course here. And this movie, you had a particularly egregious example of it, where it's like, you guys are having the wrong conversation, you're having the wrong argument, and I wanted to get mad at it, except for that's so real.
It was even more. I completely agree with you, and it's even harder to watch because the thing that they're both struggling with is the same thing. They're both struggling with the situation, especially the fact that Max is gone, and they're not communicating with each other about it.
And they don't know how to say the thing, so they're defaulting to this other. They're fighting this proxy war of words that they're having two separate arguments about the same thing, and they don't know how to get on the same page to have the real conversation they need to have. And maybe it wouldn't work out in that, but at least you would have a chance, right? And I just wanted to be like, guys, what are you doing? This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And I got mad about it for a second. I was like, I see that all the time in my own life with people, whether it be me and another person or just overseeing someone else having that argument. It's like,
sure,
you guys are not even fighting over the thing that matters. And it's not even just losing sight of the forest for the trees. You guys are looking at the same tree, and one of you is calling it a fir and the other one's calling it a pine. They're both coniferous trees. You just don't know how to have the argument in the way it needs to be had.
Yeah. It's frustrating to watch, but it's accurate.
It is, and that's why I ultimately kind of calmed down a bit because I was like, I've actually seen that's a million times.
That's got to be hard to write, even though you get it. I don't know how you effectively because they wrote it well.
Yes.
That's it for my favorite moments. But I figured before we wrap up, are there any other honorable mentions that need to be made about scene sequences, performances?
I wish I had notes for this because I didn't. But well, how about this? What of the musical numbers we didn't mention so far? What were the ones that you enjoyed the most? Because the problem is there were some that I enjoyed, but they weren't necessarily songs I knew, so I don't even know.
Sure.
Like, I can't be like, oh, that song, because, like, I don't know the name of it.
I really like when Sadie and JoJo are having their argument on stage, and they're kind of battling through the lyrics of the song.
Yeah, that was good, because I didn't even pick up on that going on until it was in full force, and I was like, oh, there's this stuff going on. And if I knew this song, I probably would realize that that's been going on. That's a case of something being so well written that I didn't know what was going on.
Right.
I don't know the song. And
right. It would have been doing Strawberry Fields instrumentally.
Yes. Yes. And I was like, oh, they've been fighting for the last 10 minutes. And I had no idea.
Yeah.
Until it became like, it's no longer a Cold War anymore. Like, shots are being fired. And I was like, well, I'd be an idiot not to pick up on it now. And because when she stormed off, I was like, the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And she says the thing about, like, she said something about, like, needing a lead singer or something like that, or doing it himself. I forget exactly how she phrased it. And I was like, oh, they've been fighting this whole time.
Yeah. When she leaves and he keeps going, though, and he picks up the microphone and he, like, then you start to hear him sing for the first time really in the movie. And, like, his voice is insanely good. and like, he's got the crowd rallying behind him. It's awesome. It's a great scene. But yeah,
that's the one thing
layers.
I will say. The one thing I'll say to this is, and I'm sure, it was studio recorded that they dubbed over or whatever, and that's fine. And they can tweak that. But these people all sing really well. And, like, I didn't know that Jim Sturgis could sing. I didn't know that Evan Rachel Wood could sing. Although I think she's done some work on Broadway, right? So I guess
she's also in Frozen 2.
She is?
Yeah, I think she's the mom.
I had no idea.
Is it the mom? Maybe the mom. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure she's in it.
I had no idea. So I didn't know she could sing. I didn't know Jim. Oh, okay. I didn't know Jim Sturgis could sing, despite the fact that I've actually grown to be somewhat of a fan of his.
Yeah, I like him.
I know not everyone is, Mike.
All right, so next week we'll do 21.
Just inundate with Jim Sturgis movies.
Awesome.
But yeah, and like the rest of the cast all sang really well too. Hell, even Eddie Izzard sang pretty well. I didn't know he could sing.
You're
cheating when you're using, Bono and Joe Cocker and
sure.
Although I didn't know Salma Hayek could sing either, so.
Until you looked it up and you went on the whole the whole trailer.
Well, no, I just knew the connection in the movie. I didn't know she could sing.
Yeah. Another one, the finale on the rooftop, singing All You Need Is Love, and the way that goes down with like the whole...
was like, when I mentioned that it was super cheesy and corny, that was...
Absolutely. So cheesy. It's like they got to the end and they're like, let's wrap it up.
Also, we need to find a way to shoehorn in All You Need Is Love.
And then they were like, crap, we forgot Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Play it over the credits.
Yeah.
She's standing there. She's in the sky. They're probably still high. It's fun.
As soon as he said his name was Jude, I was like, so Hey Jude is guaranteed to be in the song. And then she was Lucy, and I was like, so we're going to get a Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. And then we didn't get that one, and I was like, huh. And then immediately
interesting play, Cotton. Let's see how it works out.
Yeah, basically. And like you said, it felt like, oh shit, we forgot to do that one. Quick, on the credits, go!
And we mentioned it in passing, but their rendition of Dear Prudence with her being in the closet, which, I mean, a very on-the-nose metaphor, but she's in the closet, and they're singing through the closet, asking her to come out and telling her that it's going to be okay and that they're here and they love her. It's like, it's so sweet.
Well, that was the other thing. I didn't know there was a song. Is the song called Dear Prudence?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing that existed. I didn't know the song when they started singing it. Honestly, as soon as they named her Prudence in the movie, I was like, there has to be a song that is either named something or has it featured as a line. Because, and this is in no way, shape, or form meant to get into race and racism or racial whatever. I was deeply surprised by an Asian girl in the 60s having been named Prudence. I was really confused by that. So I was like, that has to be a thing that's going to come up in one of the songs at some point. And then they started singing the songs like, there it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Really cool background as the apartment turns into like clouds in the sky and stuff like that. That was visually really cool.
Very awesome.
Some of that stuff aged really well. And some of it aged really not well. Like, honestly, the Blue Men and the whole thing with that song didn't age well.
For sure.
When they were singing that, I was like, it goes across the universe. I was like, oh, he said it. Okay.
Yeah, there's the word.
And then I think it happened again later in the movie, too.
Mm-hmm. There was I can't remember the line, but one of when Jude is leaving, just before he leaves to go home to pack the first time, he's getting his work stamped and he's getting paid. And there's the guy says something, and I can't remember exactly what he says, but it is a like 1-for-1 quote of a song that they just didn't put in the movie. I thought that was funny. I can't remember exactly what it is now, but it was silly.
Oh wait, when he was getting stamped, you said it was the guy who was behind him in line who said it?
No, the guy that's stamping and paying him.
Because I remembered the guy saying something about, and I was wondering if that was from a song or because I didn't recognize the line, but I kind of chuckled when the line was delivered. He said something along the lines of, "Can you hurry it up? The pub opened 5 minutes ago," or something like that.
Yeah, and some of us are really thirsty.
Yeah,
that's good. And what else do we have? It's funny. It's probably one of the. There's not a lot of segments that don't have music.
I mean, there's definitely some, and
sure,
I appreciated that. I actually I saw Les Mis on Broadway, and it was really incredible. Mm-hmm. But I prefer, if you're going to do a musical, to have.
You need 5.
What's that?
You need 5 here and there.
I just need if they're not singing an actual song, to
don't
not
sing
be
it.
Singing, yeah,
I agree with that.
I prefer when it's now is when we're going to have dialogue and exposition and whatever, and now is when we're going to sing the song, and that's fine. And you can have a million songs; it could be the majority of the movie, but just I want it to be targeted and specific. When they're just kind of delivering the lines like this,
I don't like that either. Mm-hmm. I'm with you. I actually recently watched Sweeney Todd with Kim, and oh boy, that was a weird one.
Did they do that the whole song? The movie?
That's the thing. They do it 80% of the movie, and then they
I do
forget.
Remember some lines being delivered. It almost felt like that, background, dark ominous tones, but the verbal version of that.
Yeah.
But I don't remember it being 100% of the time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like 80% of the time. And when they're not doing it, it definitely feels like they forgot. Not that they... like, it's very... Because it's like, it's annoying while it's happening. And then it's so jarring that it's annoying when it's not happening.
That feels like it has to be one of those things where they maybe reshot a handful of scenes. And whether it was the dialogue scenes they reshot or the singing scenes they reshot, one of those things feels like it's maybe tacked on a bit.
Yeah.
I actually remember liking that movie when I saw it.
God, it's so weird.
It's so definitely weird, but it's Burton and it's about a serial killer barber, so like it's gonna be weird.
Yeah, that makes meat pies. And so what I was getting at with the non-musical scenes, I love the Thanksgiving scene. It's such a, we didn't really touch on that, but when they have that conversation at the table and Max is, his kind of goofy joking self, and his dad's really frustrated with him not having a plan, and like just that it's like it's a cyclical battle that parents and their children will have until the end of time, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. I saw, shades of my own arguments or arguments I've witnessed in my own family. I'm sure you did as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The funny thing is it was one of the few times where they really let, what's his name, Dylan Baker, shine. He's not in this movie very much. He's a really good actor.
Mm.
And he was in most of a season of The Americans, and he's a really strong actor. You probably recognize him as Dr. Connors in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies.
Mm-hmm.
He was really good in his very limited role in this movie, but also he was playing kind of an relatively easy role to play of the father who's out of touch with the kids, and they're not on the same page and all that, and coming in over the top because paying for college and all that shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any other thoughts before we wrap this up?
I don't think so.
Well, for the first time in a while, we're coming in under 3 hours. And that's all for this week's episode of Flix and a Six. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you have a movie for us to review or nuggets for us to discuss, you can send those requests by tweeting us at The Spin Tune. Tune in next week for more movie and beer goodness. Until then, I'm Anthony Costanzo.
I'm Al Bielsi.
Thanks for coming out.